From weekend getaways to extended road trips, California is full of places to explore. And for over 100 years, the Auto Club has been there to help. Our travel agents offer you expertise regarding destination information, trip planning and reservations, either in office, on the phone, or online. Across the state, throughout the country, or around the world. Through all life's travels, we're always with you.
Road Trip has been made possible by the Automobile Club of Southern California.
Well, hello everybody, I'm Huell, and let's set the situation up for you. It's Sunday morning, a beautiful Sunday morning. We're in San Bernardino County, about 90 miles east of LA, about 10 miles off the 10 freeway, and yet we are in another world. Our guide today, our co-host today is going to be Allison Law.
Thank you.
And tell everybody where we are right now, Allison.
Well, we're up in beautiful, scenic, mile-high Oak Glen. We call this mile-high because the elevation right here is exactly a mile high. We're standing in front of Wilshire Peak. These are the Little San Bernardino Mountains as opposed to the Greater San Bernardino Range. We've been raising apples in this little area for about 150 years because of the climate. It likes this mile high.
Apples. That's what we're here to find, and we're going to spend the whole day here looking for apples, although when you come to Oak Glen, you don't have to look very far, do you?
It's not very hard.
They're everywhere.
Carameled apples, apple butter, apple pie, apple cider, yeah.
You're going to be with us all day, but before we interview anybody else, we're getting ready to meet and talk with your mom, because your mom and dad were some of the early apple pioneers here in recent times.
That's true. The Wilshires and the Parishes were the old pioneers back horse and buggy days. But my folks started the first little pie shop up here in '53, and it's turned into quite a nice-sized restaurant now, and it's kind of the little heart of Oak Glen.
Yeah, and we've hooked up with Allison because she's part of the Apple Empire, the Law's Apple Empire up here in Oak Glen. We're going to have a wonderful day. We're going to meet a lot of nice people. We're going to eat a lot of good, juicy apples. We're excited because we've come to Oak Glen on a road trip. The flag is flying, and we're sitting here under the flag on this beautiful Sunday morning. I'm sitting here with Theresa Law under this flag that was erected in memory of your husband, because you and your husband were literally pioneers here in Oak Glen. When did your husband come here?
Well, he came here in 1931 as a child. But I came here when we were married in 1946.
Now, when you came here, when you were married in 1946 and moved to Oak Glen, there wasn't much going on up here, was there?
Absolutely nothing going on.
Now, what about the apple business up here? Weren't you and your husband some of the pioneers in the apple business?
Well, we weren't exactly pioneers in the apple business, but we were pioneers in that we had the first apple orchard that had a stand or a packing shed on the road.
Now, I've seen pictures. That was just right here.
Yes, it was. Yes. And then we tore down the packing shed in 1959 and built this building that is here now, which is our coffee shop.
Well, it's the center of town right here. You've got people lined up going in there.
Absolutely.
You never probably would have dreamed it would have grown into something like this when you started it, did you?
Certainly didn't.
Now, I've seen a picture of you baking apple pies.
I certainly did.
So you started baking pies early on.
I was the pie baker. I was the chief cook and bottle washer.
Did you know much about baking apple pies before you got into this?
My husband said I was a good pie baker. We tried to find somebody that would come and bake pies for us, and nobody wanted to come 6 miles from the nearest town to bake pies.
Yeah, because you were literally out in the country up here.
Absolutely. So my husband said, you make good pies, why can't you do it yourself? So I did.
So over the years, you've made how many pies?
Oh, I have no idea, but...
thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands?
Absolutely, because there were weekends that we would do 500 to 600 pies on Saturday and again on Sunday.
When did this big group of people start coming up here in the fall? When did Oak Glen really start taking on?
Well, there were tourists even in the late 40s, but to have really big crowds, not until probably the late 60s.
We're inside Law's coffee shop, and here you are. You're the first person sitting at the counter.
First one,
and look what you've got.
I do. I have my serving of apples today, and it's looking really wonderful.
Now, what is this? Just a little apple?
I believe that's the apple filling they put in the fresh pies they bake here.
I got you, but you're having it on top of waffles.
I am.
Now, is this a regular pilgrimage for you to come to Oak Glen?
I love Oak Glen. I actually was raised in the area, and I live in Pasadena, but I come back here all the time.
Now, do you come back to visit family or to get some of these apples?
A little bit of both.
Yeah.
But definitely the apples. I don't leave without the apples.
Because the theme is, if you live in Oak Glen, you gotta like apples, don't you?
Like the apples, absolutely.
Do you overdose on apples when you live in Oak Glen?
Yeah, we try to, yeah.
Well, Allison, we have said goodbye to your mom. You're going to be our tour guide for the rest of the day. Of course, this is your family's restaurant, coffee shop, your little empire here. And this is amazing because really the place is packed. But that's not unusual, is it?
No, people love coming to Oak Glen. I say it's cheaper than therapy. You can come up here and have a meal and look out and just enjoy nature, and you just feel better when you leave.
Another law. Come on over here, Kent. You're another one of the laws. How many laws are in Oak Glen?
There's quite a few of us, yeah.
Now, what are you doing with, this is the first chance we've had to actually see an apple pie, and it's warm underneath here.
Oh, it's hot.
So are you already serving apple pie to people for breakfast?
Somebody wants a slice of pie for breakfast, we'll serve them a slice of pie for breakfast.
Well,
yes.
you probably had those requests before, haven't you?
Oh, yes, many times.
I think you hold a record.
I think I do too. That's what I'm told anyway.
How many years you been working here?
40.
You have not.
Absolutely, I have.
You started then as a
Child? No. Thank you. That was nice of you to say. No, I've been here working with the Laws for 40 years. I had the pleasure of actually working for Alec and Theresa Law before they retired from the coffee shop. And now, of course, my boss is Kent Colby. And wonderful, wonderful.
So this has been a family business from the very beginning, never been bought out, never been upsized.
No.
It's always just been the same place.
Exactly. And now, of course, I'm seeing 3 generations coming up. 40 years, you know, it's a lot of people come and go.
I'm getting the idea that when you come to Oak Glen, there's just something about this place that makes you feel good.
And they come back time and time again, year after year. Some of them I've been waiting on for 40 years, actually, and so it's a wonderful place to be.
Allison, Oak Glen has a very long and a very rich history that actually goes back way before the apples got here.
It certainly does. For 10,000 years, the indigenous people collected acorns here. That was the first crop, a natural crop. And then Enoch Parrish settled this little parish ranch back in the late 1860s. He traded a freight team in San Bernardino that ran to Salt Lake. And he had lost a leg, so he decided to homestead. And he founded the Parish Ranch, and he originally grew potatoes. This little canyon was all called Potato Canyon. In fact, the road next door here is still called Potato Canyon Road.
So it went from the acorns that the Native Americans were growing and using to potatoes back in the 1860s. And is this the original barn, or what was this in 1860?
Yep, this was back in those days. People took better care of their stock probably than their wives and kids, and the first thing they did was put up a stock barn to protect all their livestock. And this little barn was built back in 1869, and it's the oldest stick frame building in San Bernardino County, still standing.
Wait a minute, the oldest?
Wood frame, stick frame construction in San Bernardino County that's still standing. Yep. This the packing shed next door was built out of adobe originally, but this was originally constructed out of wood.
Now, when did apples get here?
Well, potatoes were kind of a quick crop for pioneers all over America. When they first settled, they grew potatoes first and then planted fruit trees and waited for them to begin to, produce fruit. But in the early 1870s, then they started, Mr. Parrish actually had to lay 7 miles of drain tile up here to get the ground dry enough to plant apple trees. And
did people think he was crazy to do something like that?
Well, apples were a real a cash crop, and the railroad wasn't too far by, running through Beaumont and out through San Tim on towards Redlands and
So it
LA.
made sense to grow apples up here.
Apples were a much better cash crop than potatoes. Potatoes were a good staple, but apples were in high demand and have been ever since. I mean, they're a great crop. Yeah. I love this little area. I feel really just blessed to have been able to grow up and go to a one-room schoolhouse. I felt like I was in a time warp, sort of. But this is a great little area, and it's so valuable to people to come here to visit because they just feel better, you know. They don't have time maybe to go to their therapist, and you got to wait for Sunday for church, but you can come here any day and just feel better.
Okay, here's something that caught my eye. Yodeling Merle. We're standing out here in front of the parish apple shed. And Merle, how long have you been yodeling up here in Oak Glen?
Well, I've been on this patio for about 20 years now.
You're kidding?
Yeah, we started in 1985 here.
Do apple people like yodeling?
Well, they wouldn't be coming up here if they didn't.
Do they?
They come up to see Yodeling Merle.
And have some apples and apple cider and all that.
That's true, right, yeah.
All right, can you yodel a little bit for us? Because I think yodeling and apples kind of go together, don't you?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. All right, here we go.
Above, I want to hold you close to my heart. Give me hopes anew when I was sad and blue. Through it all troubles and strife, I gotta change my plans, cause I'm a different man. I'm heading for the bright sunny day. Lord, I'm telling you just what this love can do. I wanna live and love always, all together now. Good love, there it is. A little bit of that yodeling stuff. Thank you. Yeah.
Looks can be deceiving in Oak Glen because from the outside, this just looks like a big old red barn.
Yeah, it looks like a wooden barn, but it really isn't.
Yeah, because here on the inside, it's adobe, and this is part of that original parish ranch that started off as a potato ranch.
That's right. Enoch Parrish made all this adobe with his family and built this barn to originally house stock and take care of tack. He had wagons and harnesses that needed to be protected. And then when they got their fruit trees up and producing, they started packing all their fruit in this old building and sending it off to Los Angeles.
This building has a great feel to it, and this is original adobe over here.
It sure is.
And you go through the whole thing, these beautiful apples, but I think for historical purposes, you need at least one sack of potatoes out here.
We probably should have
Just to let people know that potatoes used to be grown here.
That's why we left the one little street sign over here in the corner that says Potato Canyon Road, just to remind people that was our original
when
history.
People come in here, they don't really know the history, do they?
There's so much history about this little community that's...
I'm looking over here. Look at this. They're sampling apples over here. Give us a rundown on what you're eating here.
Well, I think I'm tasting Vasquez.
Uh-huh.
Tastes pretty good.
I saw you making a face a minute ago from over there.
Oh, yeah. It's a little the other one was a little sour.
You got a sour apple.
Yeah.
And what about you?
Yeah, I like this Vasquez. It's pretty good. I've tried a couple others that I've never heard of before.
Look at this. We've got a whole rundown. Is this part of it, Allison? How many kinds of apples are there in Oak Glen?
Well, we grow over 100 varieties, but this little Vasquez that he's mentioning is an apple that is grown only in Oak Glen on this entire planet. This is the only place it's grown. And it was a chance seedling that came up, and it was named after Juan Vasquez, who ran this ranch. I think there's a photo of him here on the wall.
I guess I can have one.
Oh, yeah. They're a green apple, but they're sweet. They're great to give to little kids that think green means tart.
But look now, the Vasquez's, they're almost out of Vasquez's.
Well, it's probably
the
because it's not their
Spartans.
best apple. Spartan's a great little apple, too.
Nobody's eating them, though.
Well, they're good. Those are a cross between a Pippin and a Macintosh.
Where's that sour apple she was talking about?
Well, let's see. That looks like a Parkdale there, which might be a little tart. And
But you know, the problem is if you keep eating apples, your palate gets...
I always think you should carry around a little bag of oyster crackers, and then you can just cleanse your palate between each variety.
Yeah, because it's just like drinking good wine. You have to kind of clear your palate.
You do. The flavors start to...
I'm spitting apples all over you, too.
That's all right.
That's part of it,
Oak
isn't it?
Glen's all about squirting juice and squirting apples. And, yeah.
Spitting apples. Now, Allison, the interesting thing about Oak Glen is that there are a lot of very commercial places. There are a lot of kind of glitzy places, and there's some places that are obviously not very historic that have kind of come in to take advantage of all of this notoriety that's this old town has. But you brought us to a very, this is about as authentic as it gets right here.
Mr. Wood is an amazing apple master, and he specializes in unique, unusual, old antique varieties. Jefferson's favorite, Calva Blanc de Hever, Spitzenberg, Cox's Orange Pippin, which is a favorite in England. You can't find them in any supermarkets anywhere. The only place you can find them is right here with Jim and Pat Wood.
And this is your husband over here. This is your place.
Devil. Yes.
And this is your place here.
True.
You all have lived out here how long?
28 years.
And do you help in the business? Do you?
I like to think so.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
You work with apples or with?
In the beginning I did, and then I finally got my shop 8 years ago. So I've kind of moved up the scale a little bit, maybe.
What's in your shop?
Antiques and art and garden accessories.
So you've got that upstairs.
Right.
And then downstairs, your husband holds forth with the apples.
True. Yeah.
You think he'd mind if I went over and talked to him for a minute?
I think he probably could enjoy that.
Well, let's go over here. Howdy. I'm Huell Hauser.
It's nice to meet you, sir.
Nice to meet you, sir. What are we doing? We're cutting apples for, you have a crowd here. What are you doing here today?
Well, we're giving samples of all of the apples that we presently have that are picked and ready to deliver. And we enjoy doing this to educate our customers on what the difference there is between one apple and the other.
Because there's a huge difference, isn't
There's a tremendous difference between them, and a nice way to identify that is by properly giving them samples in a sequential order from tart to sweet.
Now, do you mind if I have a piece of this? Is this tart or sweet, or should I try to taste it and tell?
Well,
let me see if I can tell. And the fact that you all are all puckered up shouldn't give it away, but here we go.
That's kind of sweet and kind of tart, both, isn't it?
I was confused.
Yes, Well, that's the Spartan, and it actually is both sweet and tart. It's a very delicate apple. It's wonderful for cooking as well as eating out of hand. Wow. And it's an unusual apple to put in pie along with other varieties of apples, because it will never cook down completely. It'll always retain its slices, so no matter how long you cook your apple pie, you'll always have apple pie and not apple sauce pie.
Wow, there is so much information. Have you all been here before?
Oh, yeah. Lots of times.
Oh, so you all are regulars.
Yes, we do. Every year.
Do you learn something new every year?
One thing I've learned, I'm just telling him that you use several different apples in your pies instead of just one kind of apple. And it just mixes all the juices together, and it's fabulous.
And when you go to the grocery store in a big city, can you find all these different kinds of apples?
No, not all these kinds.
So you have to come to Oak Glen to get them. That's
and
the point.
not a wonderful man like this to cut the apples for us either.
Yeah.
It's great. Serves it to us.
And there's a real art to all of this, isn't there? I mean, you are an apple master.
No, I'm not. I'm just an individual that's having fun. And right now I'm going to have a little fun by giving you a sample of an apple that's kind of named after royalty. It's called King David. And it's an antique variety of apple that's been grown in our country for about 125 or 130 years.
That's what antique means.
Yes, but in turn, it has never been a real popular apple, and I can't understand why, because it's maybe one of the nicest apples we grow.
Have you all been able to taste any of this?
Yes, wonderful.
Wow.
And you come at a great time too, because there's so many apples available right now. This is a good time of the season.
Boy, this is wonderful.
Isn't that a great apple? It's just full of flavor, completely full of flavor.
I don't think I've ever tasted an apple like this before.
I find it maybe one of the most exciting apples that we grow, and we do grow 38 or 39 different varieties. I think this is one of the better ones that we grow.
The King David.
Yes, King David.
Now, I have a feeling that when I walk into my grocery store in L.A. and tell them I want a bushel of King Davids.
Well, they'll look at you like you're not real bright.
Yeah.
Before you leave, Huell, you should try an exclusive, the Big Green that he developed himself.
The Big Green. Obviously, this is one of your favorites. You're holding on to that like it's a piece of gold.
In fact, I bought a whole bag.
Okay, good. So the Big Green.
Big Green. And Huell, you have to sample this Big Green, and I would personally like to hear your response to your likeness of the apple.
Now, how do you develop a whole new apple?
Well, this apple came up as an area called chance seedling apple. It came up from the seed, and this green apple came up from the seed of a red delicious apple.
Oh my gosh.
Want to buy a bag?
I don't think I have truly ever had good apples before. You know, I'm serious. The apples I've tasted here this morning are different and have a fresh, they're full of, I mean, this is, I don't know how to describe it, but I've never eaten them.
You're going to be back here every year just like us.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever eaten apples like this.
You know, I'm kind of worried about my state of health right now, because I think you're trying to kill me with kindness.
No, but these are amazing apples.
Uh-huh. Well,
I mean, grocery stores don't have apples like this, do they?
I agree
They don't?
with that.
No.
Absolutely.
I think this group here has been coming here for right at 10, maybe 12 years.
That's about right, actually.
And every year, they always bring good cheer, and our children are growing up, and grandchildren are coming in, and it's really an exciting factor in our life.
Now, Mrs. Wood has a parting word about the proper way to eat apples and the way you can tell it's a really good apple.
Well, my preference is a whole apple and a big bite right out of it. And this Big Green is my favorite because when you do that, it's so juicy, you have to wipe your chin.
Yeah, that's the way to know when you got a good apple.
Yeah. Mm.
So as we prepare to continue our apple adventure here in Oak Glen, we are leaving Wood Acres right off of Potato Canyon Road, and we are going to take big bites, collectively, all of us together, a big bite out of these Big Greens, and then we're going to wipe our faces. Here we go. This is part of the Oak Glen experience. Thank you so much for bringing us to Wood Acres. This place, you know, it's kind of nestled off to the side. I wouldn't even have found it, and that's what makes it so interesting.
This place is absolutely special. It's one of Oak Glen's best kept little secrets. He specializes in the neatest old antique varieties you can't get anywhere, and you can't not buy an apple here without tasting it first.
And he wasn't always in the apple business.
No, it was kind of funny. Jim and Pat had an auto parts business in Colton for years and years, 20, 30 years, and they came up here trying to just retire and mind their own business. And he started hanging around with my dad, and he said, you know, Alec, I think I'm going to have to start farming. And now he probably raises the nicest apples in this valley.
From an auto parts store to this.
Yep, he can handle a bulldozer. He's great with mechanical stuff and equipment, but he's also just a primo farmer.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, we stopped here because this is right out in their front yard, and I've never seen a tree this full of apples, but you're not as excited about this particular apple as some of the others.
These are Arkansas Blacks, and they have the highest natural wax content of any apple known to man, which is why they keep so well.
Oh, wow,
And,
look at that.
The pioneers could have cared less that these were pretty, but they like to pack these in covered wagons and travel west 6 months out on the trail, even without a refrigerator, icebox, or nothing. Mom could make fresh apple pie.
Really?
To tell you the truth, nowadays they taste kind of like wood. They're not the greatest eating apple, but they're the best keeper. We have folks from Vegas that come out and buy bushels of these, and when they come every year, they're just finishing last year's.
Because they last so
They
long.
keep forever. They're harder than a rock.
Who cares how long they last if they taste like wood?
Well, my dad was put things out to people a little more pleasantly than I do, probably. He always said if you can't say something nice, and he never even finished the sentence. But if gals asked him what these were good for, he'd tell them decorating at Halloween. You can put them away, bring them out for Thanksgiving, decorate again, put them away, bring them out for Christmas, decorate, and then you can make a pie.
So should I take a bite? I'm
You'll
sitting
break
here
your teeth.
looking. I'm tempted.
You need Delta Dental. I'm telling you, you break your teeth.
You're
on those.
kidding.
Nope. Yeah. They are harder than a rock. They are the best keeping apple known to man. Yeah. They get much better flavor after about 6 months of storage. The flavor actually improves. But that is the hardest apple I could
Goodness gracious.
People that come up and say, no, I want something real crispy. Give them one of those, they'll break their teeth.
Well, I have a feeling we've come to another one of those historic places, Los Rios Rancho, where apples grow a mile high, Oak Glen apples. And Allison, you brought us here because this is another, well, I said it was, I just assumed it was. This has been here a while.
This ranch is absolutely a piece of Oak Glen's history. It was started in 1906 by the Rivers brothers, hence the name Los Rios, means the rivers. And they actually put this ranch in originally just to supply the LA produce market and ship fruit all over the world.
Really?
They originally planted lilacs, daffodils, peonies, nuts, and apples, all to be trucked into the city.
Wow.
And after World War I, just as a note of interest, most of the fruit from this little ranch was shipped to Europe because after World War I, they lost a lot of their apple orchards.
See, this history up here, this place is just filled with history.
This peak up here was named after the Wilshire family who bought their homestead for a jug of whiskey, $8 and some chickens.
This one right up
here. The
here.
big white rocky peak there.
We got an apple shed here with an apple man. I assume you're an apple man standing out here.
Nice to meet you.
Your name is?
I'm Dennis Riley.
All right, well, tell us what this situation is here. What's happening here today?
This is the U-pick section of Los Rios Ranch. Folks over here are getting boxes and bags to pick their apples in. We supply them with a picking pole. They step right up here and they pay for a box or a bag, and then they go out into the orchards. We have several varieties.
Can we go out in the orchards?
You bet.
How does this work? Do we just, what do we do? We get an empty box? Do we need to?
Yeah, let's get a box here.
So I want to get
one of these boxes here.
Oh, okay, and here's the, is this what we,
This is a picking pole.
A picking pole?
Yeah, this allows you to grab the apple and it falls into the basket. So you don't have to use a ladder. That's the primary thing in a U-pick orchard.
Wait a minute, I don't need a ladder to reach that apple right there.
You sure don't. These are young trees. These are semi-dwarf trees that are smaller.
Okay, we got a lady. You didn't pick all those apples.
No, I had help. I had some help.
These are your helpers
My
back here.
helpers, yes.
Now, this lady looks like she knows what she's doing when it comes to picking apples.
Just look out for the wormholes.
Oh, okay. So did you pick them all?
Not all of them. I had help.
Yeah, good. Is this the first time you've done something like this?
Yes, it is.
And how much fun was it for you all being here today?
We had a great time. We think we're going to do this every year.
And do you think the apples will taste better because you picked them yourself?
They better.
After all this work.
After all this work, they better.
And you're worn out.
Yeah, just from lugging hair around.
We got the whole Bejarano family here from Los Angeles. What brought you up here today?
Just to eat some apple pie and check out the apples.
Did you know what you were getting into when you came up here, or is this all a totally new experience?
It's totally new. We haven't been up here.
Well, what do you think about this place?
It's nice.
Yeah, it's got a nice feel, doesn't it, too? So who's going to get the apples?
I am the tallest.
You're going. Oh, the tallest one. That's why he's got the apple picker. And who's going to eat the apples? We are. Yay! What?
Applesauce for the baby.
And apple pie for everybody else. That's the way it is. Have a great day. Bye-bye. They're heading into the orchard right now.
That's a good outing for families to come up and be able to pick in the orchard. Years and years ago, the farmers didn't let folks into the orchards. And they packed all their apples out through a packing line. But if you have an orchard and you don't have that facility, you've got to have a U-pick operation. People enjoy it because they can grade their own apples. They can just get the apple that appeals to them. They take it with them. They store it. They eat it. Now we're heading up to the Spartan orchards right now. And in the distance you can see the red delicious trees that are up in the
Over
upper
here?
orchard. Yes. And they're all picked out.
Wait a minute. One of the reasons these are getting all picked out are people like this coming in here. Boy, you all are cleaning the place out.
Oh, yeah.
What have you got here?
Apples.
What kind of apples? Do you know or do you care?
I don't have a clue.
We got some Romes and Spartans and Granny Smiths.
You know, this is beautiful walking through here. It has its own sense of kind of tranquility and place to it, doesn't it?
That's a nice pastoral feeling up here. We hope it stays that way.
Boy, look out here at the mountains off in the distance. What a beautiful view from up here. You really
Lake
get
Paris
a sense
and
of where
Hemet.
you are.
It's gorgeous. You can see the reservoirs down there.
Wow.
Damangani Lake.
Now, are these old? Is this an old orchard?
No. It's a young orchard. This was planted by the Robertson brothers. Oh, probably, what, 15 years ago?
Yeah. There's a lot of trees up here that are over 100 years old, like the Red Delicious and Goldens he was talking about, have big, fat trunks because they're old trees. Still producing, though.
How long can apple trees produce before they, have to be replaced, before they apple out?
We have some apple trees that were planted in 1887 by Joe Wilshire that are still productive. That gives you an idea of how old they are. 150 years old is not uncommon if you take care of the tree. But a known fact about apples is they do not produce true from seed. A Red Delicious apple does not produce a Red Delicious apple tree. It will produce a wild tree or a Johnny Appleseed tree. And then you have to graft in stock from a tree that you want to propagate. So
this sounds complicated.
All these trees have been cut and grafted from scion fruit according to the desired brand or species of apple that you want.
Scion fruit, what does that mean?
That means the parent.
Oh, okay. See, you all have your own apple technology vocabulary, don't you?
We do. The point of the story is apple seeds do not carry the genetics. If you plant little seeds from a Delicious, you get anything but. And seedlings that are good seedlings, like that Vasquez that I mentioned, Glen seedling. My dad has one called Johnny Law. They came up by accident, like the Braeburn did in New Zealand. Came up by accident as a seedling, and it was good, so they kept it.
Wow, so this whole thing is a crapshoot.
It is.
Kind of.
Well, you can get a wild tree, and when trees first were planted in the East Coast, they had thousands of varieties, like sheep's nose and burnt cat and Seek No Further and Maiden's Blush and so on.
I don't even want to know about the history behind all those names. They all had colorful names, didn't they?
They were just graded by their taste and appeal. And the trees that you're looking at above are seedling varieties that actually were grown from a seed. The rootstock is a very healthy rootstock, and then the top grafting produced Red Delicious and Golden Delicious and so on.
So you've got to know what you're doing.
Yep.
When you get into the apple business, it's not just as simple as going out and planting a lot of trees.
No, my dad had a lot of Red Delicious in different varieties, the old Standard Delicious and Red Delicious, and there's double reds and different things. And when Fuji's and Mutsu's and Johnny Gold's, Braeburn, some of these nicer varieties became popular, he butted his trees over, make a little cut and slide in a piece of branch from another tree, and you can convert a tree that maybe originated as a Red Delicious into Fuji's if you want.
Or a dozen different varieties. You can have a dozen different kinds of apples on one tree.
Yeah.
Wow.
Some of my dad's trees have different branches. I was showing a lady the other day, yellow ones, red ones, green ones, all on the same tree.
See, this just feeds into this whole idea that I've said 3 or 4 times today, that most people just don't realize that apples are this complicated. They think of an apple as an apple.
Something people don't know is apples are in the rose family. That's why they have pink bark. And a little rose hip looks just like the bottom of an apple. An apple is just a rose hip with lots of flesh. And they were grown from wild roses to crab apples, and crab apples to other antique varieties, and now have been developed into what we call modern varieties.
Boy, I thought we were just coming up here to pick some apples. I didn't know we were going to have a lecture on Apple 101.
It's interesting.
But it's interesting.
It is.
There's a lot to know about apples. Oh, wait a minute. Here's our first wormhole. Allison, tell us about these wormholes. Should you throw this apple out, or can you keep it?
There's kind of an interesting thing about wormholes. People see a hole and they think, ooh, there's a worm in there. If you see a hole, the worm's already left. Codling moths are natural to acorns. And as long as we're growing apples in Oak Glen full of acorns, we're going to have codling moths in our apples.
So there's nothing wrong with this apple?
Nope. It's let me cut it open here. I'll just show you. This is a perfectly good apple.
Look at this.
And
So there's nothing wrong with it.
There's where the codling moth had its little home back when this was just a blossom.
And that doesn't hurt the apple
Nope,
either?
They left. And that's all you got left is a nice apple.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you can eat this.
That's an interesting one, yes.
Yeah. She's already sliced it for you. Allison, with all these people picking apples off all these trees, how long can these trees go without being bare?
Well, they'll pick all the fruit off these this year, and every year we just get a whole new crop.
Well, I know, but I mean, how many?
It'll take them 2 or 3 weeks. People coming in. We start off with our earlier varieties right after Labor Day weekend, and hopefully, if they don't pick everything out in a hurry after seeing your show, we'll still have some fruit left about Thanksgiving.
So the apples, you have different varieties of apples as the fall progresses.
Correct. You saw folks picking Red Delicious. These are the Rome Beauties. The Arkansas Blacks just below here, we won't start picking those for a couple more weeks yet. And so we kind of progress through all the different varieties as the season goes on.
And I'm looking right up here. I'm going to twist it and bring it off.
Yeah, perfect.
Here's one of these apples with a wormhole in it that I wouldn't have picked before. Yeah. But I know now.
Yeah, there's no protein in there.
This is a good apple.
Yeah, once the doors open, the worm's gone.
Now, we've spent a long afternoon in the orchards picking apples, so you've called the Oak Glen limousine service here to pick us up, right?
This is our little apple taxi.
All right, our apple taxi. We're ready. Let's head on out. We're heading out. I don't know where we're going to end up, but this is fun. Now we have come to a piece of land here in Oak Glen that is different from any that we have been on all day. Although actually we're just right across the street from the U-Pick place. We were just over there picking, Paula. This is Paula Taylor with the Wildlands Conservancy. And Paula, we're standing in this magnificent place here, and this land is very special land.
Yes, this is Los Rios Rancho. Los Rios Rancho is the oldest continuing operating apple ranch in Southern California. It was founded in 1888 by the Wilshire brothers and sold to the Rivers family in 1906. So since 1906 it has been commercial operating, and then later on it was looked at for development.
Uh-oh.
Yes. And so all of this area was being marketed for development, and in 1996 the Wildlands Conservancy purchased this entire ranch, about 365 acres, and we stopped the development.
And what are you doing on this land? Because across the street, that's your land over there, right, with the apple orchards on it.
Yes, that's
true.
true.
You've got this open kind of a picnic area over here for people, and you've got a whole little development down here with stores and restaurants and all kinds of things going on. What are you doing with all of this land? How's it being used? It looks to me like it's mixed use.
It is mixed use, Huell, and the Wildlands Conservancy looked at this land in several different aspects. First of all, it provided a fulfillment of our nonprofit status by providing outdoor education, which we do every day of the week out on our nature trails. By the way, our nature trails are open on the weekend, free of charge to the public. Secondly, this land plugged a hole for a wildlife corridor that goes from the San Gorgonio Wilderness down into the Banning Bench, which you know is very important.
Yeah.
And it allows public access, and that's the other thing that Wildlands wants, is the families to come out and have experiences in the open and in the wilderness.
Well, they're having experiences out here in the open, right in this. This is as spectacular a view as I think I've ever seen anywhere up here.
And it is the most photographed area. We have people coming off
Right
the
here.
side of the road all through the year, and they'll stop right here on the road and they'll photograph either uphill or downhill, because no matter where you're looking, it's beautiful.
And how many acres are we talking about here that's been preserved forever?
Well, you're looking at about 15 acres. The total ranch are 365. Oak Glen Road bisects the ranch, so there's actually more property on the north side of the ranch. There's another 35 or 40 acres in another park, Oak Knoll Park, down south of the Apple area, that's also available to the public.
Wow, this is absolutely wonderful.
And we hope you come back and enjoy the trails.
Yeah, because we don't have time to do it
I
today.
know.
We're in an apple frame of mind today. But what you're basically saying is that when people come to Oak Glen, they can go on this nature trail. They can come by here and enjoy this big picnic area.
Yes.
They can go over and do the U-Pick.
Yes.
All of this on land, on this old historic ranch.
Yes.
That's now owned and operated and preserved for all of us for the future generations by the Wildlands Conservancy.
And what you've seen today in Oak Glen is you've seen lots and lots of people out here because it's apple time. But you know, this ranch is open all year round, and families come out here in January and December. We have night hikes every third Saturday that the people come out and go walking out at night. So there are things for people to do all year long, aside from just apple time.
We'll be back.
Great.
But let's just end up this little segment by doing like everybody else that comes down this road and just take a photograph of this beautiful mountain range up here in front of us with the kids playing ball in this little open area, just enjoying the scenery, the clean air, and the feeling of being in Oak Glen. You never know what you're going to run across in Oak Glen. What are we looking up at right now, Allison?
This happens to be the oldest Italian chestnut tree west of the Mississippi.
Wait a minute. The oldest Italian chestnut tree west of the Mississippi, and that's been verified.
That is. Isaac Ford planted this tree up here. It was moved up from Yucaipa, wasn't doing well, and planted it here.
Wow.
Over 100 years ago, right?
And they should know because it's on their property. This is the Hudson family. We're at the Hudson family farm.
And welcome.
And this place looks historic.
It is. It was established in 1898. And we operate out of the original buildings.
Really?
Yes, and we make our cider out of the original.
Can we walk down here
you
and
sure
see
can.
all this? Because I mean, if you're gonna visit the Hudson farm, you should get a tour from the Hudsons themselves. Now,
And
is
we
this
grow-
all original stuff?
All original. And we grow 34 different varieties of apples. Today we have 22 on the sampling table.
And you've got a cider mill back here, and the old barn right here. So what do people? Is there a method behind what people do when they come to visit your place?
They hopefully enjoy themselves.
Well, I know, but I mean, where do they start? Do they start?
They start in here. There's a sample table. We sample the apples, and they sample the cider, and they can watch them over here when we're making cider. They can watch that process too.
And we make 3 different kinds of cider.
Making cherry apple,
Cherry apple,
raspberry apple,
raspberry
and then
apple,
regular.
and regular.
And
And your family's been doing this for how many years?
25 years.
Well, wait a minute. I thought this thing started before that.
I'm not that old.
Oh. I mean, I thought one of your relatives started it.
No.
Isaac
no,
Ford started
Isaac
it.
Ford
Oh, and then you all bought it
And
from
then the
them.
Hansenbergers, and then the Weber, and then we got it from the Webers. So.
And you've been here for 25
years.
And loving every minute of it.
Absolutely, and it's a family thing with my son.
Come on over here. Your name is?
I'm Scott.
Scott?
Scott's a fireman.
A fireman. And your name is?
Linda.
And you're
I manage the place here.
She's my wife.
Oh, okay,
She's my
good.
daughter-in-law
So
for 30 years.
It's staying in the family, and it
is.
looks to me like it's things are going well here.
It is. We love it.
There are donuts inside here, and this is what all of these people are standing in line for donuts.
Donuts.
Now,
yeah.
are these apple donuts?
These are apple donuts. They're the best donuts.
And so, they're world known.
World known. We're from Corona, and we come up every year just for the donuts.
Just for the donuts?
Just for the donuts. And we buy, and a bag of these are yours.
She said the apples, too.
And the apples,
all right, let's have one of these things. What's the deal on these things? They're just little...
You know, the first time I saw them, I asked if I could buy the machine, and they...
What is the deal here? These are wonderful little donuts.
There are many donuts.
Well, how did you come up with this?
They're so good because we use apple cider in them.
Ah, so they're apples.
What is it, cinnamon on top?
Then we put cinnamon
And
sugar.
Cinnamon and sugar.
Yeah, they're very good.
Come on, let's
very
pop
good.
one of
Ready?
these together.
All right, you ready?
Here we go. Oh my gosh.
Doesn't get better, does it?
Yummy, huh?
These. Forget about everything else.
Right.
I got my stash right here.
We're really an apple shed.
Oh.
The donuts play feature.
Oh my God.
Now you see why we come up here every year, just for those.
Oh.
They buy apples too.
Oh, but they're so good.
Cider.
This is my fourth one.
You need to go sample our raspberry cider and our cherry cider.
What have we got over here?
These are our samples.
Oh.
This is my cousin Roberta.
Of course, your cousin would
And
be
my-
working
of
here.
course.
Hi, nice to meet you. And
husband, Don.
nice to meet you. Didn't you weren't you peeling them up the old-fashioned way a minute ago? I saw you over here. Just putting the apple in.
And just watch that magic. It slices it, it cores it, and it peels it.
Did you all get any donuts?
We did.
You've already finished your donuts.
Yeah.
But you've got the apples and you've already started on the cider.
We did. It was delicious. You can go out there and watch them make the cider. We drank it and watched them make it at the same time.
This is kind of a family outing today.
It is. Yeah.
Everybody having fun? You'll be back next year?
Oh, absolutely. Every year.
And you all are from?
From Riverside.
Oh, wow. So you didn't have very far to drive.
No, we didn't.
But it's another world up here, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, it's beautiful.
Well, nice to meet you all. We're ending up here at the Hudson Farm, and is it called the Hudson Farm or the Hudson Ranch?
This is actually Snowline Ranch, and
Snowline Ranch,
operated by the Hudson family.
Now, how many families are there? How many farms are there?
There are probably about 16 different orchards still operating up here. About half of those are open to the public. Either you pick or come and buy apples already picked for you.
And a lot of them have been in the same family for a long time.
Yep, we're working on it.
Although we have learned that you don't go all the way back. You just go back 25 years.
That's right.
But you're carrying on the old-fashioned tradition.
Absolutely. It's very important. And
California grown.
Absolutely. And we support all of California grown stuff. Our agricultural needs it.
And here is the way your family operates. Now this is old-fashioned. We will do our best to meet your high standards. If we don't, would you please lower your standards to meet ours?
Right.
Did you come up with that?
I think I copied it from somewhere.
It's all about marketing up here in Oak Glen, isn't it?
It's a little country humor, a little Will Rogers.
We've had a wonderful time.
Thank you very much.
This wonderful place.
We'd like to
Best
take
cider,
you and
best
show you
apples, and best donuts in Oak Glen. Law's Oak Glen Cider Mill, local apples and fresh cider. This is another place your mom and dad started years ago.
Yep, back in 1946. There was a lot of cider made up here and shipped down the valley, and this is the little place my folks started, and they pressed cider here, and it was all bottled and sent down to big refrigeration places in town and shipped.
Now, can you tell cider that comes from Oak Glen?
I can tell the cider from each different place up here just by sipping it.
There's that much difference?
Yep, everybody has their own way. My little brother's been doing this. He's 50-something, but he's still my little brother. And he's been doing this for 35 years, and he has just a knack for blending the varieties to come up with a, perfect taste.
See, once again, there's more to it than you realize. It's not just as simple as buying a jug of apple cider.
That's right. And this time of the year, if you buy a jug of cider, you're going to get 20, 30 different varieties of apples in that one jug. Wow. The flavor is so complex.
Okay, we're inside, and this is about as authentic as it gets. We're standing by a machine that's making, what's happening over here?
Apple cider.
Boy, it's splashing out everywhere on it.
Yeah, it splashes pretty far.
Now, you're another one of the Law family, right?
Yes, I am.
Your sister is Allison.
That's correct.
So how long have you been making apple cider?
I've been making cider since I was 19, so 35 years.
Wow, and it's done the old-fashioned way. Look at this. What is this? These are just squashed up apples.
Yes, they're ground up. There's a drum inside the hoppers here that spins about 300 miles an hour.
Wow.
And that turns it into applesauce.
And okay, this is the apple sauce right here.
They call it pumice is another.
And where's the apple juice?
Well, then the juice, after you fill your claws, then the juice is squeezed out over here.
Look. So that's pure apple juice.
Yeah.
All of this right down here. Look at this up here. This is all apple juice. You got a bee in here, a yellow jacket.
They love that stuff.
Wow, this is beautiful. And how much of this is this an old?
Well, this is a newer press. It's a 1982, but it's modeled after the exact press that we had before this.
That your dad had before.
Yes,
and
that's
that people had for generations before that.
That's
All right, let's turn it back on.
Okay.
We're going to get a little bit more of it.
Okay.
Wow. Oh, whoa. This is very interesting to watch it be done the old-fashioned way. Coming out of the cider mill, I ran into Mr. and Mrs. Long from Irvine, and you had some observations to make about today.
Well, you picked a great day to come because we come up here every year, and sometimes it's beautiful like this, and sometimes it's freezing cold and there aren't any apples left.
Well, now you have to know when to come.
Well, we guess.
Yes.
Well, we do. If you come in late September, early October to mid-October, it's beautiful. It's like Shangri-La up here. There's a mountain breeze. I've been coming since I was probably 5 years old with my family. Yeah, this was the place I always remembered. And then when we got married, had our daughter, we started coming regularly every year.
So what is it about it? Is it the apples? Is it just the journey up here? What is it?
Yeah, it makes a great weekend day trip. Yeah, it's the ambiance, really. We love the apples, of course, and the pie. But yeah, it's just a beautiful place.
It's just kind of getting away.
A little piece of the country.
Yeah.
We try to bring a different friend of our daughters every year so they can sort of see what it's like.
Great. Well, nice to meet you all. It is a perfect day. It is a perfect day, Allison. It's been a perfect day.
You couldn't have picked a better day to come up. We just love the fresh air, blue sky, and Mother Nature at her best.
You know what? I kind of was wondering how crowded, how touristy, how overrun it would be. And there is a lot of traffic on the weekends in October. There are a lot of people up here, but I've been honestly struck by how nice the people are up here.
Thank you. You're one among many. Like those folks said, there's just generations of people that count on finding this place right where they left it. They don't want to see a lot of change. They want to see the same juice, the same apples, the same people behind the counter. Makes them feel good.
And as busy as it is, it still somehow or another has maintained its sense of place.
Well, we're a little more low-key. We don't, get so caught up because we don't have to live down the hill and all that stress.
How many
and rush.
people live up here?
Oh, there's about 300 or 400 in a 10-mile stretch here.
That's it?
Yep, and I know most of them.
Oak Glen isn't incorporated.
No, it's an unincorporated area of San Bernardino County, and the county has noticed and recognized our uniqueness and left us alone. A supervisor the other day said Oak Glen has done a better job of taking care of themselves than the county could have.
Yeah, probably a better job.
Yep. So,
well, we've certainly had a good time. I'm drinking some of that homemade apple cider. You've got a whole jug of it there for us.
Yeah.
That hadn't fermented yet, has it?
Not yet, but we have a few college students that buy it in this state and then let it turn to alcohol.
Wait a minute. Does cider turn to alcohol?
Sure. Apple juice, the first stage, it forms carbonic acid, which is carbonation. It gets bubbly. Little kids think, oh, I'm getting drunk, but they're not. There's no alcohol. But the sugar does eventually change into alcohol, and then it goes to vinegar. In each stage, a jug like, say, this is worth $8 fresh, it'll be worth $16 hard and be worth $32 as vinegar.
Boy, you know, there is no end to the information that you have provided us today. Thank you very much.
You're more than welcome.
You were the perfect tour guide for us here in Oak Glen. We have had an absolutely wonderful day. It's called Mile High.
Beautiful Mile High Oak Glen. Yep.
Mile High, beautiful Oak Glen, and it is beautiful. This wonderful, wonderful place nestled in the mountains here, high up in the mountains in San Bernardino County.
Away from everything, yep.
You're not that far from the freeway, but you're in another world. This is indeed a very special place. All the apples you can eat and more.
Yep, carameled apples, apple butter, apple jelly, apple pies, apple bread, you name it.
And apple cider.
Yeah.
It's all here in Oak Glen. We've had a wonderful day on this road trip.
Above, I wanna hold you close to my heart. Give me hopes anew when I was sad and blue. Through it all troubles and strife, I gotta change my plans, 'cause I'm a different man. I'm heading for the bright sunny day. Lord, I'm telling you just what this love can do. I wanna live and love always, all together now. Good love,
You know, I've traveled to a lot of beautiful places and had some wonderful experiences in California, but I guarantee you there is absolutely no better way to spend a day than to go with your family and your friends up to Oak Glen during apple season. It's just a great way to spend quality time. The apples are great, the people are nice and friendly. It's better to go during the week if you can and avoid the crowds on the weekends, because it does get crowded up there. The secret is definitely out. But anytime you go for the next couple of months during apple season, I guarantee you, you're going to have a great time. And when you're up there, have a couple of those apple donuts for me. Well, hello, everybody. I'm Huell Hauser, and you know, the day I spent in Oak Glen had to be one of the most interesting and enjoyable I've ever had anywhere in California. And if you'd like to go on this adventure again or share it with family or friends, it's available on video cassette and on DVD. All you have to do is call 1-800-266-5727, and we'll be glad to send it to you right away. But of course, after having watched this on television, I'd hope that you and your family and friends would get in the car and go up to Oak Glen and experience all of this for yourselves. And while you're there, bite into one of those big old historic juicy apples for me.
Road Trip with Huell Hauser has been made possible by the Automobile Club of Southern California.
Wherever you're headed on your next road trip, the Auto Club knows the territory. For travel tips or comprehensive destination information, as well as booking your next family vacation, our website is a great first stop on any journey, no matter how far away your destination may be, through all life's travels. We're always with you.